Darrel and I had film rolling every time something like this happened. It's so easy to roll camera now on your phone. So that's the only time it got creepy for me, is when something dead ended up coming to the property, especially a snake. And yeah.
Okay, we need to take a break for the stations. We'll be back in 3 minutes, and we have both you guys for another half an hour. So, let's find out more of what happened when we come back. So you're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And thank you.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And here we are for the next half an hour. Tonight we're only on to 8 o'clock. The last hour of the show will continue on for the radio stations. But anyway, on the internet, we're wrapping it up at 8 o'clock here tonight. Now, we're talking Bigfoot here with two great guests. Guys, are you still there?
Still here.
Okay.
I am, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, things are getting more complex, bigger gifts. The snake was a recent kill. Sounds like maybe like a minute or two before you discovered it. I mean, this is getting a little creepy on that part.
Yeah. At that point, it caught my attention. I was like, what are we messing with here? If this is a cultural difference, we're going to have to figure out what shouldn't be killed, I mean, like, if we're talking about something specific and it shows up on the property, you kind of have to be careful of what you're talking about, because it's a little bit like having your own personal genie, and that's where the fear came from. It's just like you had to kind of be careful of what you talked about. And it wouldn't just be things that we'd talk about. One of the last things that happened there was I had pulled in the driveway and had a World War II blanket spread out in the back of my trunk. It was like a olive green wool blanket. And Darrel hears a pop sound. And so we don't really make anything of it. We walk out of the shop, and sitting in my trunk, the door was open. Right in the middle was a World War II era rusted can opener, like a trench can opener, sitting on this World War II blanket. And so these are called apportations, right? Objects appearing out of nothing. And we would get evidence of that. Too many examples to go into detail. But then we would invite people out to experience this, because we wanted people to see that this stuff was possible. And that's why we recorded everything. One of the people we had out was Henry Franzoni, an old Bigfooter from the days gone by, author of the book Spirit of Fiatco. And Henry has some pretty wild theories about what Bigfoot can do. He's also a professional drummer and a scientist. And so we invited him out to the property, and the whole time he was sitting out there by the fire pit, we were kind of waiting for sounds to erupt. And nothing really happened, but people did experience some stuff. But he was talking about drumming. And so a couple days later, we had found a sweet spot near the shop, facing outside of the shop. And this is where all the glyphs would show up. You know, these amazing 4-stick, usually it was 4 twigs that they would make almost runic alphabets out of and mess with and leave little messages. And on this night, they came a-drumming, and we'd never caught this before, but I'm thinking they picked up this 50-gallon barrel drum and were playing it like bongos. So you're going to hear clip number 9, what sounds like Bigfoot up against the shop playing drums and then percussively talking.
Okay, let's give this a play. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of the better sounds that we pulled out of there. And I think it was a tip of the hat to Henry. Henry has had a lot of Bigfoot experiences. He has a lot of connections with the Native Americans. And there's a lot on the spectrogram going on with that visually, with that particular audio there. What I think is a complex use of words and growls and grunts.
So, I mean, after this, I mean, really, I mean, how long a time span was this all going over? Was this a matter of weeks, months, a year, or how long?
Well, it happened until Darrel picked up and moved. It was kind of on your way out the door, Darrel. What was it, a year and a half?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was constant.
Yeah.
And it maybe even followed some people home. I think the phenomena does follow people home. If you listen or read Tom Powell's books or Henry Franzoni's books or Ron Moorhead's books, you'll hear stories about these things kind of following people back. And I think that this has kind of a half-life, you know, like you're walking into a radiation field. It doesn't just wear off all of a sudden. The phenomena kind of follows you around, and you may find handprints. In fact, when I moved up here to Port Orchard, Washington, in this little cabin, one of the first things I noticed on the wooden rails were 4 very specific white chalky handprints wrapped around the rail that no one could account for. And I'd only seen that one other place. Now, they were way larger and more human-like, but other witnesses will talk about chalky white stuff showing up on their dogs when they walk out into the woods, or chalky white handprints. It's one of the lesser-known things maybe that kind of clue you in that you have behavior around you. But there was a lot that happened at that property. Most of it would show itself no matter how many people would come over or what time of day. We had giant footprints that were left in Darrel's driveway, as though something stood, in the gravel and twisted its feet to make a size 14-inch left and right foot next to one of his shovels. They did it 2 or 3 times. We left out little wooden blocks, and the blocks had letters all over them. There was maybe 50 blocks, and they all had different letters and numbers on them. And we set them near the shop where we'd find footprints. And on a little stone, I put these blocks together and spelled out the words, "Thank you for the gifts," or "Thank you for gifts." And within a couple days, Darrel sends me a photograph, and below this statement was the statement, "Welcome." Now, it had grabbed the number 3 to make the letter E, because we, I guess, ran out of letters. And then I think it used the number 4 for the letter M or E or something like that. But you could definitely see it was trying to spell out "welcome." And it was laid in a row phonetically. Now, if that was somebody hoaxing us, we just didn't have the luxury of disbelief at that point. We'd seen too much. Darrel had ended up seeing a probable Bigfoot on his property. I think I saw the feet of a Sasquatch standing in front of my Jeep and run off through the gravel screaming like a Jurassic Park scream. And all the neighbors were talking about this at this point. It was an incredible, part of my life. And so that now I'm busy trying to finish a book about it and get that out there. And I have this podcast that try to talk to witnesses that live in these hot spots where these extended experiencers talk about the supernatural coalescing with Bigfoot activity.
Interesting. I think James has a couple questions for both of you guys. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, have you guys ever tried to use what's called the environmental water filter DNA treatment to catch any DNA?
Well, you're talking about eDNA from things like nest and off of byproducts out of nature? Is that what you mean?
It's kind of like that's where they filter the water from streams and ponds where it could have stood in, walked in, and it could tell DNA of everything that's been in the water recently.
Oh.
And they filter the water and send it out.
No, we never got into any of the hardcore DNA stuff, just mainly because of cost, although we did skin cell swipes of a couple of handprints. We still have those Q-tips and paper envelopes. Certainly, I totally blew it when the aspiration of blackberry juice was presented. I just did not do a sample of that. I still have the trailer. The sample is still on the vinyl siding. I don't know what could become of that, but we sent off the hair samples to Cindy Dosen, and she did a microscopic analysis. And she's mainly looking for a lack of a medulla, or in this case, a shattered medulla, which is the core. And since we had so many hairs, including ones with roots, she was able to really rule out stuff. And she, felt strongly about the fact that it was nothing known around the property there. But, the knees need to be looked at more. In fact, recently, I'll tell you, Darrel, I got in touch with a orthopedic surgeon here at Harborview Medical in Seattle, and they're willing to do testing, eyes on the knees testing for us. So that's a big bit of news. Yeah.
Yeah. How about using drone with any infrared cameras? You ever try using that kind of equipment?
Well, the problem with both of these things right now is we're talking about something that is omniscient. we're talking about something that can read your mind